equity, a system where every student, regardless of gender, can pursue their education free from fear and intimidation. Together, we can reimagine our campuses as beacons of hope, opportunity, and empowerment. As we begin this forum, I urge all of us to engage fully, whether it is by asking questions or through your mobile phone, because I believe we will be also having Mentimeter engagements. I believe just share your insights, share your thoughts, engage fully, and propose actionable strategies. Let us leave here not just with ideas, but with renewed determination to create the transformative change that our institution and students desperately need. Once again, I welcome you all and look forward to the robust discussions that will unfold today. Together, let us drive the ownership of safeguarding practices across Nigeria's tertiary institutions and build a future where safety and dignity are non-negotiable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amara, for that welcome address. And now moving on to someone who's going to be giving us the special remarks. Senator Ovie Omoagege is a Nigerian lawyer and politician who served as the Deputy President of the Nigerian Senate from 2019 to 2023. He was the senator representing Delta Central Senatorial District from 2015 to 2023. He was the champion and sponsor of the bill for an act to prevent, prohibit, and redress sexual harassment of students in tertiary educational institutions and for matters concerned therewith, 2019, which was passed recently by both houses of the Assembly. He is ably represented today by Chief Francis Atameyobi, Honorable Commissioner, National Assembly Service Commission. Please make welcome Honorable Francis.
Hello. I once again want to humbly welcome each and every one of us to this important occasion. Ordinarily, he would have loved to be here, but as we speak, he traveled outside Nigeria. And of course, it's a privilege also for me to represent him. And I'm highly excited to see each and every one of you, most especially the female. The female. It's a privilege. I will read his goodwill message to you. Special remarks by Senator Ovie Omoagege, CFR, at the Public Policy Forum on Driving Ownership of Anti-SGBV, Safeguarding Practices Across Nigeria Tertiary Institutions. Here in this hall, Yar'Adua Center, Abuja, this 28th day of November 2024. I want to observe all protocols, please. It is an honor to be here with you today at this Public Policy Forum. I extend my appreciation to the Yar'Adua Foundation, the Ford Foundation, Gender Mobile Initiative, Education as a Vaccine, and the Nigeria Association of Female Students for convening this essential forum. Today we gather not to just to discuss, but to act on the vital need to institutionalize safeguarding practices against sexual and gender-based violence within Nigeria's tertiary institutions. Our journey towards combating sexual and gender-based violence in educational institutions has seen significant milestones, notably through the co-creation of safeguarding policies at institutions such as the American University of Nigeria, the University of Nigeria, and Yar'Adua University. The success of these policies is a testament to the power of collaboration and pressing need for a formalized structure that fosters safety for all students and staff. Building on this progress, today's forum represents a moment to push these achievements further, inspiring adoption and ownership across Nigeria's tertiary institutions. As many of you know, in 2019, I had the honor of sponsoring the sexual harassment in tertiary educational institutions prohibition, prevention, and redressal bill. This bill, co-sponsored and unanimously supported by the 9th Senate, seeks to end the culture of harassment and place our institution where women, especially young female students, often find themselves vulnerable to animal behaviors by those in positions of power. This bill reflects our commitment to unfolding the integrity of our education system, ensuring that the halls of learning remain a sanctuary for character building and academic pursuit free from coercions and abuse. Unfortunately, the bill was not signed into law. But government is a continuous process, and efforts should be made by 10th National Assembly to represent the bill. The principles underpinning this legislation emphasize the doctrine of in loco parentis, the trust and duty of care that educators and administrators owe to their students. It is our responsibility to ensure that the intrinsic power dynamics within educational settings are never exploited to the detriment of our students' well-being and academic progress. The development of safeguarding policies is not merely a preventative measure, but a transformative step towards creating a culture of respect and equity in our institutions. This aligns with the fundamental belief that when we educate a woman, we educate a nation. By protecting and empowering our young women, we foster a generation that is resilient, confident, and unburdened by the societal contradictions that have historically impeded their full potential. Our collective task, therefore, is to champion the implementation of robust safeguarding practices that uphold the rights and dignity of every student and staff member. We trust we must work towards a national framework that makes these practices the norm across all institutions, not just a select few. Today, we stand at the brink of a national movement supported by the evidence that safeguarding policies work. These measures serve as effective deterrent against SGBV, creating environments where students can thrive without fear of harassment. The forum's focus on assessing the successes of pilot universities and strategizing on broader implementation in both timely and essential. I urge you to deepen your resolve and widen your coalition. Your goal should not only to advocate for the expansion of these policies, but also to drive legislative and institutional reforms that make safeguarding a non-negotiable standard across the entire Nigeria educational landscape. In closing, I want to thank everyone here for your commitment to this critical cause. Together, let us forge a pathway where every student has the right to learn in peace, dignity, and safety. It is only by uniting our voices, efforts, and resources that we can transform our institutions into beacons of safety, equity, and respect. I am hopeful that through sustained advocacy and action, we will create an enduring legacy that safeguards the future of Nigeria education. You can always count on my support. Senator Ovie Omagege, the Obarisi of Uroboland, Deputy President of the Senate, 2019 to 2023. I so submit. I want to congratulate each and every one of you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Francis. Thank you, Senator Ovie, for the work you're doing. And yes, we definitely hope that the conversations we have here today and conversations we continue to have will birth safer institutions for women and everyone. We cannot overemphasize the need for videos, films, and the role that media has to play when it comes to passing the message about, championing championing against SGBV and talking about sexual harassment. So at this point, the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation has a presentation for you. It's a video vignette called A Friend Indeed. Please enjoy.
This wasn't the first time. When my supervisor assigned me to clean his office, I tried to swap with another person, but I couldn't turn her around. I was so happy when I saw the office was empty, but then I saw the look in his eyes. I just knew. I knew what he was going to do. He grabbed me and tried to put the message on his lap. They couldn't do more, but he said if I didn't do what he wanted. He threw me out of his office like I was trash. That was when she walked up to me and asked me what happened. When I told her what he did to me,
Look, you have to report him. We have to.
I tried reporting him before. I told her nothing would happen because I had reported him before. She showed me a website and assured me they were going to help me.
We're delighted for that video vignette and the message it has to pass. At this juncture, we're going to be inviting Honorable Akin Rotimi to give us a special remark. Honorable Akin Rotimi is a Nigerian parliamentarian, public policy, development, and strategic communications professional, currently serving as the Honorable Member of Ekiti North, Ikole-Oye, Federal Constituency in the House of Reps. He holds the position of spokesman for the 10th Assembly and chairman of the House Special Committee on Media and Public Affairs. He's also the sponsor for the bill for an act to prevent, prohibit, and redress sexual harassment of students in tertiary educational institutions and for other related matters 2024 that has been passed in the House of Representatives. It's an honor, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Akin.
Thank you very much, most distinguished audience here today. I would like to specially recognize in absentia, although he's been duly represented, Senator Ovie Omo-Agege, who is a mentor to many of us and is ably represented by the Honorable Commissioner of the National Assembly Commission. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to stand on existing protocols. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring you very warm greetings from the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, PhD, GCON, and the entire 10th Assembly House of Representatives. We remain resolutely committed to tackling the scourge of sexual harassment and gender-based violence, especially in Nigeria's tertiary institutions. This commitment is a part of our broader legislative efforts to safeguard the dignity and safety of all Nigerians. Now, I must begin by commending the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation for its ongoing leadership in advancing social justice, institutional accountability, and the protection of human rights. The foundation has been a driving force in bringing critical social issues to the forefront, ensuring that the most vulnerable are not left behind. Its work aligns fittingly to the work that we do in the House of Representatives. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gender-based violence in tertiary institutions is an issue that demands urgent attention. The trauma it inflicts on victims goes far beyond the physical and emotional scars. It robs students of their dignity, safety, and opportunities to thrive, undermining their potential to contribute to society. In a nation like Nigeria, where youth and women form the majority, this is not just a personal issue, it is a national crisis that hampers our development. When women and students are denied safe and supportive learning environments, we stifle their potential and in turn, our country's progress. Now, as a legislator, in this work, you might wonder why some of us took an interest in this work. I have been deeply inspired by Excellency Erelu Bisi Fayemi. Our tireless efforts advocating for gender justice and mentorship of emerging leaders has been instrumental in shaping my personal commitment to these issues. Now, when we talk about sustaining the fight against GBV, we must focus on leadership recruitment. Without strong, empowered, and committed individuals to carry the work forward, we risk losing the gains we've made over the years. Erelu Fayemi exemplifies the power of mentorship, building a new generation of advocates ready to take on this challenge. Our continued involvement in these issues remains a guiding force in our work today. I must also acknowledge Senator Ovie Omo-Agege for his pivotal role in laying the groundwork for the Prevention, Prohibition, and Redressal of Sexual Harassment in Tertiary Institutions Bill, which he championed in the 9th Assembly. While the bill did not receive presidential assent at the time, we had key learnings from its experience, from its legislative journey. So for some of us that have an idea of how the legislature works, the bill started in the 9th Assembly in the Senate. It went through the ranks and was passed. It was passed on to the House of Representatives. It was also passed. And then it was laid before the president, but unfortunately we didn't get the presidential assent of it. Now, in the 10th Assembly, our parliamentary rules allows for such legacy bills to be relisted without going through the entire procedure again. So I have listed it now in the House of Representatives, and it has passed first, second, and third reading. Thank you very much. And it has now been committed to the Senate, and the Senate has now listed it for its first reading. So we are very hopeful that in the matter of weeks, perhaps days or months, that the Senate would also be able to expedite the passage of it. Like I said, our experience in the 9th Assembly gave us a lot more experience and key learnings, one of which is the fact that it wasn't started on time. So it was left too late into the Assembly. And you know, by the time politics and all of that starts, priorities are reordered. So now we're not even 18 months in office yet, and the bill has already passed in one chamber, transmitted to the other chamber, and passed first reading. We are hopeful that we are in good stead to be able to ensure that it is passed this time. And we're very sure that by the grace of God, when it gets to the president as well, we'll receive expeditious assents to it. Under the visionary leadership of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we are confident that this important legislation will receive the assent it deserves. President Tinubu has demonstrated a commitment to justice, equity, and accountability, and we are certain he will prioritize this bill to ensure safer campuses for all Nigerians. Furthermore, we are sure of the steadfast support of Our Excellency, the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, because we're sure that GBV is one of our, the fight against GBV is one of our priorities. We know her advocacy for women and girls, and if I understand correctly, I think she was one of the co-sponsors of the bill in the 9th Assembly. So we're very sure that by the grace of God, when it gets to the president, we would also be advocating through the First Lady to ensure that it's passed. Now, the House of Representatives has taken very bold steps to complement our legislative efforts with active advocacy. As part of the ongoing 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, we've led various initiatives to amplify our commitment. On Monday, under the leadership of Speaker Abbas Tajuddin, we organized a historic walk from the National Assembly all the way to the headquarters of the Nigeria Police Force to submit a petition on behalf of Nigerians as representatives of the people on the need to prioritize the fight against GBV. You'll see yesterday, if you observe plenary sittings, every one of us has been wearing an orange sash to underscore our commitment. We're also having a conference with speakers of state houses of assembly to also be able to take this fight forward. And I hope that Nigerians are really noticing these efforts, that the 10th Assembly House of Representatives particularly, number one, understands the issues, and number two, we have a commitment under Speaker Abbas Tajuddin to ensure that we leave a lasting legacy, especially in critical issues like issues that affect our women and girls. Finally, as I begin to conclude my remarks, I want to encourage every one of us to, both in civil society, in the academia, and all stakeholders, to see the National Assembly as a critical ally. For many years, we've lost a lot of opportunities for progress because you see government as on one side and then civil society on one side, as though we're fighting, and you know, that adversarial tensions and dynamics. We want to encourage you. We call ourselves the People's House. We want to encourage you to see us as a critical ally in this field. Our doors are open. Both individual members like myself and collectively as a house, we are committed to these issues. Finally, I'd like to express my deepest appreciation to the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation for convening this crucial forum. and for its unwavering commitment to these important issues. Your work continues to inspire us all, reminding us that we must work together to build a Nigeria where everyone can live free from fear and from violence. I thank especially Sadia and the management. I know she's been very persistent in ensuring that I'm here personally today. And I thank you very much for the work and for the opportunity to speak this morning. It would be remiss of me to go sit without acknowledging the role of my sister from Ekiti, Omoumi Ogumoroti, Esquire, who's been very, very central in the legislative efforts to ensure that we've gotten to this point. I thank you very much for your guidance and support, which has been very critical to ensure that we've gotten to the bill up onto this point. So thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to speak and for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable, for taking meaningful steps to addressing SGBV in our nation and helping us address it in tertiary institutions. This is a fight that requires collective resolve, transformative action, and unwavering leadership. So we're really grateful. At this point, it is my honor to introduce someone whose office makes that she has been at the forefront of championing the rights of women, advocating for justice, and driving policies that protect the vulnerable. The Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, FSI, is a Nigerian politician and businesswoman. She has previously served as the Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. In May 2021, she was redeployed as the Federal Commissioner of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. In August 2023, she was sworn in as the Minister of State for Police Affairs by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, becoming the first female Minister of Police Affairs. And on the 23rd of October 2024, during a cabinet reshuffle, she was reassigned as the Minister of Women Affairs. She is ably represented by Princess Dr. Jumai Idoniji.
Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I bring you warm greetings from the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, Honorable Iman Ibrahim, who would have loved to be here. But because this is the period of the 16 days of activism, there's so many programs, and she's just jostling around. So without wasting much time, I want to read her speech. Let me begin by acknowledging the presence of the members of the House of Assembly who are here, and it's instructive to note that Senator Omo Agege is still pursuing the dream of what he started in the 9th Assembly, and he still has mentors who are championing his cause. So when you hear this message, and I say I, it's no I, but Honorable Imam who is talking to you. It is my honor to address this urgent issue on the need to combat sexual and gender-based violence, SGB, in our tertiary institutions. This issue has become a national concern as high-level profile cases have exposed the deep-rooted culture of abuse and impunity within some of our academic communities. The BBC documentary Sex for Grades sheds a stark light on the systemic sexual abuse in Nigeria and Ghanaian universities. It revealed harrowing accounts of lecturers exploiting their positions of authority to harass and intimidate female students. Specific cases, such as those involved involving faculty of Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU, and the University of Calabar have further illustrated the widespread nature of this issue. These incidents show that SGBV is not isolated, but reflects systemic failures in safeguarding practices and accountability. While the Sexual Harassment Prohibition Bill was not assented to by the president at that time, though passed by the 9th Senate, this bill provides a robust legal framework to curb such abuses. Laws alone are insufficient without proper implementation. We're grateful to note that the current 10th Assembly, which is quite gender friendly, is doing so much to ensure that this bill sees the light of day. Institutions must therefore make and take ownership by embedding anti-sexual gender-based policies, enforcing zero tolerance measures, and ensuring offenders face consequences. Equally important is the establishment of sexual assault referral centers in university communities. Currently, we have 47 sexual assault centers spread around 22 states of the Federation. These are not enough, as SAC centers provide vital services to survivors, including medical care, counseling, and legal support, and they play a critical role in building trust in reporting mechanisms. By ensuring these centers are accessible, we can empower survivors to speak out without fear of retaliation or stigma. Just recently, on Monday precisely, we had a dialogue with the Centers of Gender Studies across all universities in Nigeria, and one of the issues that came up was the need for them to take a critical step in establishing SAC centers to also provide support to victims of sexual gender-based violence. The Nigerian Governors Forum's 2020 declaration of a state of emergency on gender-based violence underscores the urgency of action. Tertiary institutions must align with this national priority by creating safe spaces for learning where students and staff are protected from harassment and abuse. It is no longer news to say that the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 has been domesticated by 35 states, which means no one has an excuse to violate or harass anyone sexually, because the law will take its course. But passing a law is not enough. Implementation is key, and this requires funding. In this wise, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs remains committed to partnering with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Justice, the National Assembly, university leaders, and civil society organizations to drive these changes. We must also engage students, empowering them to lead the fight against SGBV within their campuses. We're therefore grateful to the Shehu Yar'Adua Foundation for convening this all-important event on the wings of the 16 days of activism. The time for action is now. By establishing effective safeguarding practices, enforcing accountability, and supporting survivors, we can transform our universities into true centers of learning and dignity. We must work together to ensure that no student is ever denied the right to safety and respect. We can do it. Yes, we can. Thank you, and may God bless Nigerian students and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you for the work you've been doing to further the conversation against SGBV. At this juncture, as we delve into the conversation and the critical discussion on driving ownership of anti-SGBV safeguarding practices across Nigerian tertiary institutions, We want this forum to be as engaging and as inclusive as possible. So to achieve this, we will be using a Mentimeter. It's an interactive tool that allows everyone here participate in real time. Throughout this session, you'll have the opportunity to share your thoughts, respond to questions, and contribute to polls using your smartphones, your devices. Please scan the QR code that's visible on the screen right now. And that's where you'd impute whatever information you want to pass to us. Your input is very valuable as we shape actionable policies together. Okay, thank you very much for your input. We believe everyone has the QR code. We'll be looking forward to the conversations we have with you on there. At this point, we have a presentation, Safeguarding Students and Young Adults in Nigerian Tertiary Institutions, an evaluation of the Gender Justice Project by Dr. S. Adelakun, who is an Associate Professor, Lead City University. Dr. Oladike S. Adelaku is a distinguished scholar with a doctorate from the University of South Africa, alongside a master's degree in law and library and information science from the University of Ibadan. She holds postgraduate qualifications in education and bioethics and is an alumna of the prestigious Hague Academy of International Law. An expert in international law, her research spans women's and children's rights, family law, conflict studies, and gender development in Africa. She has led key initiatives, including the UNFPA GBVIE project and the UN Women EVWAG project under the Spotlight Initiative and the Yar'Adua Foundation's Gender Justice Project. She's widely published and a member of FIDA. She consults for national and international organizations focused on ending gender-based violence in Africa. We're delighted to have you here today.
Are you projecting the slides?
Permit me to stand on existing protocol. Honored to be here before you today. And
Okay, we have.
so, I'll be talking about how to drive ownership of anti-SGBV safeguarding practices across tertiary institutions in Nigeria. Who's controlling it? Is that? Okay. Today, I'll run through what we've been doing, what we can do, and how we can do this. So basically, when we talk about SGBV, what comes to mind is rape. And people believe, oh, when we talk about GBV, it's all about women, it's all about girls. So at this point, I think it's important for us to understand that anybody can be a victim or a target of SGBV. And it is SGBV because it's a kind of sexual violence that is perpetrated against a person as a result of that person's gender at that point in time. And it is important to also know that it is not only women or girls that could be targets of SGBV, but in our society and in most patriarchal societies, women and girls are more vulnerable, of course, because of patriarchy and the social norms. And in tertiary institutions, female students are more vulnerable because of the peculiarity. And this usually comes in form of sexual harassment by staff, and more importantly, among themselves. A survey that we conducted reveals that female students actually face more sexual and gender-based violence from their peers. This is not to say people in position of power do not also exploit these students. And then we also have it in form of exploitation in exchange for grades, which is popularly known as the sex for grades. We also have the physical, the psychological, the emotional, and the verbal form of sexual violence. So when we talk about sexual violence, we're trying to say it is not limited to rape, and it is not limited to physical sexual violence. When you utter words that could demean a person that is sexual in nature, it is also a form of sexual violence, because this would also have a kind of effect on the recipient of the words that could actually affect the well-being of that person. And why does this matter? It matters because it affects the growth, the well-being, the dignity of the person involved. And this is why we keep having students that are so young going into depression, and the trend is showing that some even go as far as committing suicide. And to create a safe learning environment, we have to work together. So any SGBV safeguarding practice must be able to put some things in place. The first is to ensure that it protects students and staff. I know some of us will be wondering, especially the female students, that why are we so particular about protecting staff? After all, are they not the ones perpetuating this effect? I'm sure during the panel we'll get to talk about this more. So we'll get to explore why this is actually essential. So any safeguarding policy that would actually be effective has to take cognizance of the fact that while young adults and females are more vulnerable, it is also important to take note of the fact that male students and young adults could also be victims of SGBV. And such practice or initiative must take cognizance of this and be inclusive of all the people on the university or in tertiary learning institutions. They must be able to foster and promote accountability, and the leadership of the institutions must be able to establish that they have zero tolerance towards these practices. And it should also be able to empower the survivors and witnesses to speak out without any fear of reprimand or punishment. And the institutions that are embracing these practices must be committed to institutionalizing prevention mechanisms and response mechanisms. The idea is not to just keep punishing people or keep having these practices on campus, but rather the initiatives must be able to make sure that we achieve an environment of prevention. And where this now occurs in rare circumstances, the response must also be very effective. And we should be able to ensure that we promote awareness and that could lead to behavioral change, especially if this is a new initiative in a learning environment. Of course, we witness a lot of reporting if the young adults and females have faith in the system, there will be a plethora of cases being reported in the first phase of implementation, but we must be able to show that this is not supposed to be a kind of witch hunting process, but it should be able to achieve a behavioral change across the learning environment. And in doing this, we must also ensure that it aligns and confirms with minimum standards and with international, regional, and national policies. So, the reality of the country or the world we live in terms of SGBV, we know that significant number of students In fact, the ratio has been like 1 in every 4 female students have experienced one form of SGBV or the other. And remember, we said this is not limited to rape. It could be verbal, it could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be psychological. So 1 in every 4 students have experienced this form of abuse. And unfortunately, most of these go unreported. And this is what we really want to address. Why would you experience such violence and you still do not report it? That is really worrisome, right? So we also understand that people will not report their experiences because of barriers. It could be systemic barriers, whatever barriers that makes them not to report. And this is worth exploring. And we also have to understand that not reporting is actually dangerous, not just for the image of the institution, but also on the health, well-being, and growth of the recipients or the survivors. And we've seen several situations where A students just drop sharply, and we just feel, oh, they've become unserious, they've joined bad gangs, without actually understand the state of mind of these students and what is leading to poor academic performances. So how do we drive this? Who should drive this? Of course, we're talking about tertiary institutions. It starts from the leadership of the institution themselves. The VCs, the DVCs, the HODs, the lecturers, everybody. People at the top of the realm of affairs. So the management of the institutions must be willing. That is the first thing. The willpower to actually drive this change is the most paramount in this situation. So the tertiary institution leadership, apologies for using university, because in the context of Nigeria, tertiary institution is like all encompassing the polytechnics, the technology schools. So it's not just the universities. So the institution leadership must be willing to drive this change. And then the faculty and staff. Faculty in the context of academic staff, and then the non-academic staff. They must be seen as role models. They must be able to implement this just by chipping in a word of encouragement during their lectures, and then making themselves approachable by students, not just to like talk about their academic performances, but they must also be seen as role models. They must be able to like mentor them and guide them when they need to like lodge complaints. And of course, the counselors in the institutions. Then the students themselves. If the students do not take ownership of this, then implementation becomes a big challenge. So the students must be seen, they must be actively involved, especially in terms of peer support and leading initiatives and activities. And then we have the government and the NGOs. Yes, the government has to also show the willpower to say, we are taking this forward, and I'm happy that we've been able to hear this morning that at least the government is taking steps by making sure we have that legislation to be the backbone of all these initiatives. And then like what Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation is doing, I know a lot of CSOs are also doing that. I've seen my sister from Gender Mobile, and the education as vaccine, and I can see a lot of faces here, and believe me, even though we are still like so small in this battle, it's really making a huge impact. Thank you all for all you do. So how do we actually achieve ownership? So the first thing, the moment the tertiary institution leadership has shown that commitment, is willing to actually achieve change and to drive change, the first thing to do, I think this is the lawyer in me talking now, is to make sure you have that backing, the legal backing, to start as a minimum standard. And the first thing is to develop an institutional policy, or it could be incorporated in the code of conduct, but in clear terms to show zero commitment to SGBV. And once that is done, we know the next thing is to make people understand how to go about implementing this. And this is usually done by way of trainings, workshops, create awareness programs, paste flyers across the institution. And then you have to make the members of the community of learning to have faith in the system. We've had a lot of institutions that actually have this code of conduct, but people still do not come forward. And these acts are being perpetrated on a daily basis. And this is largely because students, young adults, females, and people that have experienced these acts do not have faith in the system. Like we saw in the short video that we watched, the cleaner said, I've tried reporting this in the past, but nothing was done. And that shows she lacked faith in the system. So it's important to make sure that the process, the reporting process, the investigation process is as confidential as possible. So, and that the system is also accessible and not difficult to manipulate. When I say manipulate, to navigate, I'm sorry. So we also have to create peer-led advocacy group, because the truth is when there's a peer support group, it's easier for people to come forward. It's easier for them to speak about their experiences, and it's easier for them to seek help when they need to. And it's also essential to partner with external organizations like CSOs, NGOs. And this is important because people want to see that, oh, you are so transparent in your process, and you don't mind external people coming forward to help us to make this awareness known across the institution. And we also need to monitor the progress. It's also important to monitor maybe every 2 years to see if we are still on track, if the implementation process is still as effective as it's supposed to be. So, like I said, we have to institutionalize the practices, and this has to be done by making sure we integrate it into every aspect of the frameworks of the institution. Like I said, it's not a bad idea. While teaching, you chip in 1 or 2 things about the policies, about the process, and then you make this a part of the onboarding process for new staff, for new faculty, for new students. So it should be an integral part of their onboarding process. And then we have to keep monitoring the effectiveness, like I said. And once we've been able to achieve a milestone, it's worth making noise about. That way it encourages people to be more committed. It encourages continued ownership of the process. And then we have to promote a culture of respect. Be it female, male, adult, young ones, we have to make sure that there's this culture of mutual respect in the institutions. Yes, we have challenges. We cannot deny that. And the first thing, and I think that is the most, that's the most serious barrier that we have to break in achieving a change, and that is the resistance to change and the cultural and societal norms that we are used to, especially in public institutions. You will be challenged. Who are you to come and try to change things? We've been doing this even before you were born. This has been the practice. Who are you to come today and dictate to us that this has to be changed? And then, we could say, the first time this bill was raised, I think in 2006, the first thing that people, especially lecturers, were saying is, oh, this is like a witch hunting. Why are you targeting us? Why should we be? If you see it as targeting you, are you doing something wrong? So believe me, challenging these norms would be the greatest challenge in making sure that the tertiary institutions are actually safe. Then another problem is, we've talked about how this implementation can be institutionalized. The truth is, we have challenges in terms of resources. You want to create flyers, and they said there's no budget for that in the university budget. You want to set up training programs, workshops, advocacy programs, and then the university tell you, even though we are really committed to this, we do not have the funding to support this. That's also a big challenge. Then the fear of retaliation. And then the fact that the first thing that comes to mind, especially if the victim or the survivor is female, is what were you wearing? Why should you go there wearing what you were wearing? Now, you called for it, you deserve it. Look at you, see the way you appear, victim blaming. The truth is, that should not be an excuse to violate another person. So, and that is why it is important to build confidence in the system. Once we are able to do that, then we can also overcome this barrier. But we also have the lack of expertise on the part of those developing the policies themselves, on the part of those implementing the policies. And if any small thing goes wrong, it could affect the whole process. So it's always better to make sure that those that will be at the realm of affairs are adequately trained to acquire the capacity that they need to drive this process. So it should start from the committee, from the team that will drive this change, by empowering them, by making sure they actually know what it entails, what to do, and how to go about it. That is also very important. Now, the weak enforcement. The moment we are able to empower the team that is at the realm of affairs, I think this challenge can be overcome. And then we have inadequate collaboration. I know, I'm sure this is something Yar'Adua Foundation will be able to talk about. I know I've been able to talk to them, and we've been able to try to approach some institutions. And the moment they know, oh, ACSO is coming on board to come and drive this change, the first thing they expect is they are bringing money. And the moment the institutions realize, oh, no money is involved, we just want to guide you through the process and make sure you have the capacity to do this, they lose interest immediately. So this is also something we really have to work on and see that there is effective collaboration that could lead to change. So we'll talk about the case study. And this is what we call the Gender Justice Project with the pilot at AUN. I was lecturing at AUN at the time this was done there. And I know the same was replicated at UNN and BUK. I will not be talking about those two universities because I was not directly involved. So what we did was to first, at that time, we had existing sexual harassment policies across 3 different code of conduct. We have it in the student code of conduct, we have it in the faculty handbook, and we had it in the staff handbook. So it was not as if this were not existing, but we had to conduct a needs assessment, which was a short research, to actually see if we need something further or if we are good the way we were. And the result was very shocking, that despite having these policies, we had a very large percentage of the university community not even aware that these things exist. And they did not even know where to go to. And believe me, we had over 70% of SGBV acts coming from students to students, as against the mindset that we had that this was always perpetrated by persons in position of power, faculty, management team, and the staff. So we realized it was a deeper problem for us, especially from their peers. And the findings of this needs assessment actually shaped the kind of policy we needed. And this led to the adoption of a new policy entirely, which was a safeguarding policy. So we tackled the safeguarding policy for women and young adults. This does not mean it only covered women and young adults, because the needs assessment was conducted across the university. And we also saw that even the male adults confessed to being harassed, being sexually harassed by females. So we had to look for something that was able to strike a balance in terms of protecting everybody, with more emphasis on the more vulnerable group in the university. And then, with the support of the Yar'Adua Foundation, we were able to also launch the whistleblowing platform, which is the gender justice reporting platform. And the good thing about this is you don't even have to have the safeguarding policy in your school to be able to report. So anybody from any institution in Nigeria could report. But we were a bit skeptical about the information. So we worked with them not to make it completely open. Remember, each management, each institution management will determine how you want to go about this, as long as you are committed to driving change. So what we did is we do not want them to have access to all this information, because we were also being careful with the privacy of, with the right to privacy of our community members. So we only gave them access to the extent that they could see cases that were filed for transparency purposes, and that we took it up in terms of investigation and that actions were taken. So we did not give them full access to the private information of the people involved. And I guess this also boosted the confidence in the community, that okay, it's only at our own end, and it's only trained personnel that was monitoring that platform that had access to the platform. Even I did not have access to the platform. So it's only the trained personnel in that aspect that had access to the platform, and when a report is made, they try to like sift through it and then forward it to the investigative committee. And we try to adopt a kind of system where the confidence level was very high. And throughout the investigative process, we always emphasize this with all the parties that were invited. Of course, students at times will say they need to come with a friend for moral support. And we also make the friend to understand the confidentiality clause and the need not to discuss it, because we are not indicting anybody. And until the report shows that this act has actually been committed, we also don't want to tarnish the image of the alleged perpetrator. So, and this actually led to, in the first 3 months, we had a very overwhelming number of reports that we never believed, things we never believed were happening. And all those reports were investigated. And by the following semester, we had very few, maybe like 2-3 reports. And then we were like, oh, did something happen? Why are the students not coming forward? And then we had to like continue with the training and everything. We realized that actually people were being more careful. And then especially the lecturers, the staff that feel they could do anything, and people were like, oh, I don't want anything. And even when they have to invite students to their offices, they always say, come with your friend. Or they say, okay, I'm alone with a student in my office, I'll leave the door open, which I also do. Even when I have to have a male student alone in my office, I'm always like, I'm not comfortable, can I call in a colleague? Or if you want to have a private discussion, are you comfortable having this discussion with me alone? So it improved the confidence level. People became more cautious of their actions, and we were all like because we also understood that, okay, they also have rights, they are rights bearers, and we also have to like protect them. And then it was a very inclusive process. And I think this was actually what led to the success of the project, because it was inclusive, it included everybody, even the volunteers. So everybody had confidence in the system that, oh, this is a safe place for me to go to. And then, yes, the end result was a safer learning environment for all. And this brings me to what we have to do. We have to keep advocating to end SGBV. And every policy that we adopt should be anti-SGBV. That is very important. We have to participate in trainings. And this is where inclusion comes in. Once we have that community ownership, participating, leaving your time to make sure you join these trainings will not be a big deal. It will be another, oh, if I go, nothing will happen. So we have to make sure we report incidences, and we support survivors, and we avoid victim blaming. No matter how a person appears, that should never, and that should never, ever be a justification for violating the person. We should also learn to collaborate effectively for better results. And we should challenge harmful practices and behaviors. I know that could be difficult. That we've been doing this for 50 years. Why should it change now? If we don't challenge it, we won't know whether it will be able to change. We will be able to change things. Thank you so much. And I believe this is a collective responsibility. Thank you.
safeguarding policy, whistleblowing platforms, improved reporting and investigative mechanisms, improved confidence in the system, inclusivity, and safer learning environments. We would all agree that the Gender Justice Project has definitely been successful and made great impact. Thank you very much, Dr. Olanike, for that presentation. We hope to replicate a safer learning environment in all our educational institutions. At this point, we're going to take a short break, just so everyone can get refreshed. We'll go through the back door. Can go through the back door, and that's where you'll be given breakfast tickets. The break is going to be for 30 minutes. We encourage that you have conversations within this time, because we hope that the conversations we have here today are able to continue even after this event. Please be sure to return promptly. Enjoy your break.
you.